Hey guys, so pretty much the same gear as yesterday. Soap, blade, brush, but this is the Pearl Flexi that is the version 7. Yesterday was the version 5, today the 7. And we'll just see if we can notice any difference. So, the Full Measure of Mann by Barrister and Mann. This is a wonderful tobacco scent that I like a lot. And it is the Excelsior, the Excelsior formulation. Perma-Sharp, super stainless, and looks like we've got, 6 or so uses on it. Like I said, Pearl Flexi version 7. That darn Rob. Declaration Grooming. No. It's a TDR knot, the Fanchurian, and this is the version, I think even version 1. And something I noticed after I shaved with it yesterday, after it dried most of the way, these tips do have some curl to them when they dry, like many of the treated tips have. But they weren't crispy at all. I really like that because when my brush is sitting on my desk, I like to have the shave experience last a little bit longer than just the shave. And so I'll take my brush and I'll put it at my desk and I'll just kind of feel of it. Oh, when I have a good scent, oh, it's great too. Just to kind of smell it and bring back that scent because a little bit will stay behind on the brush, and so this is one that I can do that with because the tips don't get all crispy because you don't want to be working those crispy tips too much. They can break. You don't really want to, be old fanning and playing with the brush knot, when they have the crispy tips. All right. Now, the one thing I learned yesterday, the last shave, was that I was reminded that the Excelsior is kind of a more gluey, low structure lather. Here's the Perma-Sharp blade. And as such, I need to let it run a little drier. I took it too wet last time. Now everything worked, but in between passes, I had to kind of go back and get some more lather, some more soap from the box, from the tub. Now, one thing that is different with the version 7 and the version 5 is that with the version 5, when you go to reassemble it, you had to be a little bit more careful with, you almost had to hold this up a little bit, and then, or no, what you had to do was the knob would not really engage unless you pressed up on the knob just a little bit. I mean, not a big deal. It's something intuitive. You would know, oh, well, I need to push up. And big deal, right? But with this one, with the 7, they must have changed the length of the shaft there or something like that. I'm going to shave it with a 2, just like I did yesterday with the version 5. Okay, so version 7, notice I didn't do any kind of trick with the head. I don't have to do that, at least so far. That's been my experience. Yep, everything looks aligned very well. And so the 7 seems to have fixed that problem of the kind of difficulty centering that it had. So now that the blade is loaded, I'll get my face wet and we will get on with it. Yesterday as I was loading, I just caught a whiff of this as I just uncapped it. Man, that's nice. Sweet tobacco. And it's got some other stuff that's just puts it in a great pocket for me that I really just enjoy the scent. Yesterday I thought a 25-second load might be about right. And then as I was watching it develop, I thought it needed more, and that was smart of me. It turned out to be a good decision. I did add 5 seconds to it to make it a 30-second load. But I ended up adding, I think it was maybe 16 milliliters of water total, and that was a little too much for that amount of soap. And so I ended up with a runny lather. Still very functional, but a little on the wet side. And so today I can adjust that by, let's load more. I did go back to the tub a little bit during the shave last time to just get a little bit more before the second pass, before the third pass, to help the runniness to stabilize a little bit. And so what if we say a 40-second lather? I might say 45, but we've got a little bit of residual moisture here. So let's just try a 40-second load. This is a softer soap than like Glissant used to be. that sort of thing. Shaking a lot of the water out of the brush here. Oh, do we have a stray hair? No, not really. Just some sticking out the side. I'm going to tilt you down. Now, if you use the same soap base, especially the same soap, started at 20. If you use the same soap base, then you can, and especially the same brush, you can definitely go by looks. You can watch the way the lather starts to come together in the bowl there. Does it start to get a little pasty? Watch when bubbles form. Right now we do have a little bit of the slurry starting to develop, but it's not super bubbly, it's not super airy. Just about 10 more seconds to go and we'll have a 40-second load. It's not overflowing, and overflowing is often a product of the water that you have in the brush knot. And so if you don't like a loading process that overflows, just reduce water from your knot. Now, if you reduce it too much, it's hard to load from the soap onto your brush, because you kind of need that water to kind of activate and kind of form that slurry. But you can definitely back off some, right? All right. Oh yeah. Ah, what a rich scent. Just right. I was reminded of how much I enjoy this knot. You can see the lighter colored hairs, and it's even more dominant live in person. But before you get to the handle, you've got the dark band, and before you get to the handle, it definitely turns light. And I have found that in many cases, that's been a good sign for me to see that, hey, that brush might be lofted more like something I prefer. Not always true, but it's been true with some declaration batches and some others as well. And that extra loft gives you a softer feel. It lets the brushes be able to bend more. If you give too much loft, then you get a floppy feeling. You could have the bristles lay over too much, and so you've got the side of the bristles on your face. And so most brush makers don't want that to happen, and so they'll try to find that happy medium. And especially when you have these wonderful soft tips that this knot has, you definitely want those to be shown off. Okay, there we go. It's about 15 or 16 milliliters of water. Oh, and last time, you know what I think happened? Now I remember, one of the things that made it too wet was, I believe that I didn't quite mix well enough to where the water that was back this far in the knot was engaged with the lather. I think it remained water. And so then when I started working it on my face, it released and it kind of washed out my lather. So I think that, plus having it a little bit too wet because I forgot that it was a low structured gluey type of lather, those both teamed up to be this perfect storm of a wet lather. So I'm gonna do a little bit there where I was pushing down a little bit more, and so hopefully I got the lather up into the core there. Hopefully there won't be any surprises. And so you get used to what the lather looks like if you use the same stuff over and over. I was talking with John Williams in the comments of maybe a week ago, and he made the very good observation that when he started, I don't know, maybe a year ago, I think, if I recall correctly, that he got a few razors, got a few soaps, a few blades, and he was thinking, wait a minute, maybe if you're starting out and wanting to work on your technique, then maybe that's not the best way to go. Have that rotation where you're switching things all the time. He's exactly right. And I've said that for years. I don't think I've kind of mentioned it recently, but definitely online. I usually recommend, like on Reddit, especially is where most of my time is spent. Sometimes on Badger and Blade, but I recommend if you're new, and especially if you're having a little trouble with your lathering and your shave technique. Excuse me. Um, Take away the variables. Use the same, find a blade that's reasonably comfy for you, and then use the same razor, use the same brush, use the same soap, at least the same soap base. If you've got a few Stirling options, then sure, switch back and forth between them if you want. That can still affect you a little bit, because if you use the same soap over and over, that reduces the amount of load time you need to use on it. But if you're switching back and forth, then let's say you use one 3 times, even if they're all Stirling soaps, for instance, you use one 3 times, then by that 3rd time, you don't have to actually load as much. You're picking up more soap because it's got kind of a residual water, unless you're scooping, of course. And then you switch. Let's say you learn that on that 3rd time, you only have to load for 12 seconds or 15 seconds. Well, then you pick up another Stirling soap that you haven't used for a week. Some of that water's gone, and now that same 15 seconds doesn't get you as much soap. So that can still be a little bit different. But at least you're dealing with the same base, and knowing when to stop adding water is still going to be consistent with that product, as long as you've got the same base. And so, yeah, limit all those variables. Stick with the same stuff. And sometimes on the order of 2-3 months, sometimes as long as 6 months it takes, especially like me. I had some trouble spots right around here, especially. Everywhere else on me is pretty standard. Right up here goes pretty much straight down. Over here, it kind of goes across. And here is where I've got some mixes, and then you've got that hollow in your neck beside your Adam's apple, where you don't have a lot of resistance there. And see, I'm old and fat, and so I've got some loose skin. But you don't have a lot of resistance. Some people will kind of back their neck like that to have a little bit more. That's a technique you can try. And so it took me a while to learn how to get that area in a way I was happy with. So yes, John is exactly right, and that hit me in the head just now, and I wanted to mention that in case you're new. Then limiting those variables is probably going to do you some favors in terms of technique. Now, if you seem to just have fun no matter what, then, go for it. Switch up all the time if you want, if that's fun for you. But then if you ever want to really dial in your technique, maybe back off and limit your variables so that you don't wonder which is causing the issue. Because one of the big rules in shaving is similar to many other hobbies, many other pursuits, many other skills. It's technique over tools. I bought a bunch of razors in the beginning because I was trying to find the right one, where my technique was not good enough for any of them to work properly. The tools. I was putting the focus on the tools, where I really needed to put them on the technique. I ended up selling most of those razors because, after all, it was the technique that needed improvement. Okay. Soapbox is off. And to get my face wet one more time, we'll get that lather on. Now, we are not starting with tons of lather. However, I believe this will be enough. Plenty here for the first pass, and I'm pretty sure, very confident, unless I've taken it too wet again. And that's not a good sign to have one jump ship so quickly. It's very wet. Now, what could be happening here, or rather the fix that could help the most. Yeah, see, look, it's all going away. Only a tiny bit flew off, but look, where's it gone? We had a whole brush full. Now, I do have oily skin, and so that can kind of kill the lather a little bit, but I think this was just too wet. This with Excelsior, I need to run it a little drier. So, get some more from the pup, The good news is when it is too wet on your face, then adding a little bit to the brush usually combines pretty well, and you don't really have to start from scratch. You can see it starting to cloud up just a little bit more there. I was looking at some videos online today about those old-fashioned scuttles. Not the double-walled kind, but the kind that almost look like a little flower pot that have a spout in the front that often has a big hole where you can put your brush. It has a reservoir in the main part, and then above that it has a place to, I guess, put your soap. And then that little soap area will have some holes so that that area and the soap doesn't become waterlogged. See, I think I added almost exactly the right amount of water of soap here to the brush to kind of bring this back, because it doesn't look luxurious, right? This is a far cry from the, pillows of lather that a lot of guys have. But I tell you what, this is a good quality soap. And so it has laid down a great slick layer, film on my skin. It's bonded with my skin now. Now what I'm going to do now is kind of prep for the second pass. I'm going to load for a little bit more. And then now this, while I let this first pass soak into my skin a little bit, which is good, helps with the slickness and protection, I'm going to then take that to my bowl here and just kind of work it up a little bit. And that will be something good for my second pass. If I used Excelsior more, then no doubt I would remember to run it a little dry. So that 40 seconds, not quite long enough. Maybe if I had used that soap for a week, I bet 40 seconds would be plenty, because it would have had a little bit of that moisture built into it. So I guessed wrong today. Oh well. Now with the grain, and for me that works out to be from north to south. I watched the movie Ghost Rider with Sam Elliott, and he often sports a beard. And by the way, very slick here. There are definitely guys who'd like to see a more opaque lather, but in terms of getting the job done, this is just, I've got great glide here, even though you can just see right through the lather. But Sam Elliott, with his beard in that movie, there were some close-ups, and so I was able to see the grain of his growth. And so some guys, it's kind of easy for them to, I could give him some shave techniques, right? Wouldn't be too hard to map his beard for his shaves. And there we go, very comfy shave. The 1.5 days of growth was easily dispatched by this blade and razor. Level 2, setting 2. Still very smooth. Give myself a little rinse. Now, one thing you can do if you have a lather that's a little too wet in your bowl or on your brush, if you're a face latherer, is just kind of dab your face dry with your towel between passes, and that can definitely help to tweak your lather, firm it up just a little bit. Another thing, and this is an idea that I haven't proven with tons of testing, but just a quick splash of water, you can probably still see I have some soap still left on my face. So let's use that, right? Don't wash all the soap away, and then whatever's on your face can help the next pass. Matter of fact, if you've got a really wet lather, what if you skipped the rinse in total? Oh yeah, look at this. This is terrific. This is perfect. Oh man, that's great. Wet. It's well hydrated. Just it feels luxurious. Of course, that first pass did not feel luxurious because it was so wet. It performed, but it didn't quite have that luxury feel. This just wonderful. These tips, they're so soft. So this a nice lather combined with these soft tips. I do not need to work right now. I don't need to do any of this. I'm doing it just for the joy of it, because the first pass is what did all that scrubbing and stuff. So second and third passes can just be application only. Cross grain now. The smoothness here does mean that you might have to work at finding the angle, because the blade is kind of protected by the safety bar and the top cap. And so there may be strokes where you just don't do any damage to your beard at all because because your angle is wrong. But it still gives a little bit of a blade feel, and there's a little bit of audio that tells you if it's working properly. And so I have found it pretty intuitive to find the angle. Yeah, see, plenty of lather, and this is just perfect right here. Luxury and slickness and hydration all at once. And there we go. And that was just the second pass. I may not even need to do anything right there for the third pass. Yeah, so that second pass was just perfect. I did rinse away. We'll add a little bit more water back. And then I have plenty enough soap. I could probably do a little touch-up pass if I needed to. Try to fill the brush up with as much as I can. And just for the joy of it, man, this brush feels great. All right, third pass. Really happy with the razor. Definitely feels like a touch-up pass with just very few pieces of stubble out there. Very smooth. I need to compare Omnibus with Excelsior sometime. Excelsior is a little bit on the, low gluey side. I don't think I remember Omnibus being the same way. Great. Really close results. This is a terrific match of razor and blade. So the 40-second load, I did have to go back twice to bring in a little bit more soap. And so in retrospect, starting with a 50-second load might have been a better idea. But I tell you what, it is an excellent use of soap. Economical. I only used as much as I needed, for sure. So, yeah, still really loving this brush. Like I said, big splay, easy splay, soft tips. Not too soft, not spongy soft at all, not slimy at all. So very, very happy with that brush. It would be, perfection, would be if this handle would have been just a little bit longer. As you can see, it doesn't really go down my fingers too much, but I'm not going to complain too much. Very nice. All right. Yesterday, the oud worked very well, the Agar from Stirling, and so I'm going to use that again. My face is wet after the rinse, and so this will spread around easily. I do have just a little bit of tenderness down in that area where I was kind of doing extra work. I went against the grain a little bit. But that should go away in just a few minutes. I didn't have to pursue such a close shave right there. I just chose to. Wonderful. So 14 or 13 milliliters of water is what I used this time. Oh, still wonderful scent on this soap. Continue to enjoy that one. I bet if I used this straight for a month, I still wouldn't get tired of it. You never know sometimes what happens, but I bet I would still really enjoy it. So the differences, after all, this is the focus of today's shave, is the Flexi from Pearl Shaving. It's an Indian company. I've been very happy with the workmanship. It's a relatively inexpensive price for a lifetime material razor. Adjustable. There's nothing zinc alloy on here at all. It's not like the the Progress from Merkur or any of the ones from Weishi or Viking's Blade, which are kind of rebranded Weishis in many cases, or Baileys. Bailey is really kind of the main parent of all those zinc, Zamac type razors. Zinc alloy, I think is the way one would say it. And but this is brass at its core, and then it's got a few different layers of plating and coating on it. And it's a hefty guy. He's not light, but he's smooth. He's patterned after the Gibbs kind of look and the head design there, and that's a good thing to do because my Gibbs is so smooth, and this guy comes pretty close. And this was on the setting 2, and I still got a little bit of irritation, and so setting 2 is no wuss. Maybe my skin is what the wuss is, right? But that is typical for me. Going against the grain just has to be done with great care for me on my neck, and so this I think is probably just a little smoother than the version 5, but I'm gonna have to play with it more to see if that really holds out. It might be pretty much identical, so we'll just give it more chances and see if anything comes as a notable difference. Otherwise, I'm just going to call them even. I'll be sending my version 5 back to Pearl because they sent me the 7 as a replacement. And as you saw, I didn't have to do anything special with the blade. No workarounds. I just dropped the blade in, loaded it up, tightened it down, ready to go. So perfect alignment there. And I think that's today's shave. Yeah, I believe so. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. I sure hope that you guys got something out of this video. You take care now. You can see the white coming through the window, so this is not an evening shave. And the white is coming from snow. We still got some snow out there. Probably melted off by tomorrow, but a little bit of snow still. So take care. Happy winter to those of you guys who are in winter right now. In North Carolina, every once in a while we do get a little snow where we are in mid/eastern North Carolina. We don't get snow like the western side does. Take care, guys. Good night.